Aging is an inevitable part of life, and with it comes the responsibility of planning for later years and, eventually, end-of-life care. For those who are married, this responsibility extends not only to their own parents but also to their spouse's parents. Personally, I've always treated my husband's family with the same care and concern as my own. After all, when I married into this family, I accepted them as part of my life and felt it natural to share in their responsibilities. However, my in-laws never seemed to view me as part of the family. To them, I was little more than a convenient housekeeper, or perhaps an ATM. I've always been a part-time worker, carefully managing our household and finances with diligence and sacrifice. Despite my efforts, my in-laws and even my sister-in-law showed no gratitude or kindness. Instead, they took advantage of my goodwill. When my sister-in-law had her first baby, I brought a thoughtful gift and rushed over to congratulate her. But when I arrived, she greeted me at the door alone, barring me from even seeing the baby. "Why are you trying to barge into our house? Just leave your gift at the door and go home," she said curtly. I was stunned by her rudeness. After years of silently enduring their whims and burdens, I had finally had enough. If they wanted to treat me like an outsider, then so be it. I decided to start acting like one. My first step, cutting off the monthly financial support I'd been providing to my in-laws. My name is Michelle Davidson. I'm 40 years old and live with my husband, Ryan. We chose not to have children, a mutual decision that fit our laid-back personalities. Lately, though, I've been noticing signs of early menopause, unexpected hot flashes, disrupted sleep, and occasional nighttime fevers. Despite these challenges, I managed to work 5 days a week at a part-time job. A few months ago, my parents retired and relocated to a peaceful suburb about an hour and a half away by train. They purchased a comfortable condo and settled into their new life with ease. The area is close to medical facilities, and they've already secured accommodations at a nearby senior living facility for the future. Knowing my parents are well prepared gives me peace of mind. In contrast, my in-laws' situation is far less stable. Ryan's mother had mentioned strange behavior from his father some time ago, but Ryan hadn't made any effort to visit or call. His younger sister, Jenna, is another story altogether. She often said things like, "You and Ryan will handle it if anything happens to Mom and Dad, right?" Jenna showed no intention of taking responsibility, preferring to delegate anything complicated or inconvenient. Ryan, unfortunately, shares some of her tendencies. If I didn't take the initiative, discussions about his parents' care would go nowhere. Yet, every time I tried to step in, I was met with apathy or, worse, the expectation that I would handle everything on my own. Based on his mother's accounts, it seemed Ryan's father was showing signs of dementia. While dementia is incurable, early intervention and family support can slow its progression. I suggested to Ryan that we start researching care facilities and secure a spot before it became urgent. "Yeah, you're probably right," he said absent-mindedly, but nothing ever came of it. Then came the inevitable crisis. Ryan's father fell at home and was hospitalized with a fractured hip. During his stay, additional health conditions were discovered, and his dementia advanced rapidly. Tasks he could manage before the fall were now impossible. Ryan was caught off guard by how quickly things had deteriorated. "How could this happen so fast?" he muttered, visibly stressed. "This was bound to happen eventually," I snapped. "You should have prepared for it." Jenna visited their father only once during his hospital stay, doing nothing to help with laundry, paperwork, or arrangements. She left without a word of thanks, and watching her and Ryan's detachment was infuriating. Everything fell to me. As I coordinated hospital arrangements and watched Ryan's father stare blankly at the ceiling, I couldn't suppress my frustrations. His declining health was heartbreaking, but so were the mounting costs of his extended hospital stay. Even if he recovered physically, his dementia meant that a care facility would soon be necessary. Ryan and I needed to have an honest discussion about how we would manage these expenses. At the same time, I worried about his mother living alone in their aging house. As much as I disliked being the default caretaker, someone had to step up, and it seemed, as always, that someone was me. Despite the years of harsh treatment I'd endured from Ryan's mother, I couldn't simply ignore her growing needs. She, too, had begun to show early signs of dementia. While it wasn't severe enough to require immediate intervention, it raised concerns about how long she could live alone safely. Their home was large, old, and too difficult for one elderly person to maintain. After discussing the situation, Ryan, his mother, and I agreed to sell the house. The proceeds would go toward covering his father's hospital bills and securing a more manageable living arrangement for his mother. Ryan and I also planned to purchase a modest home with the possibility of her moving in with us if necessary. I don't want to live with you right away, but I want to be close enough for emergencies, his mother said. Her assumption that I would be the one handling those emergencies was so ingrained that no one even thought to ask if I was okay with it. To make things easier, we proposed renting her a small apartment nearby. Jenna, unsurprisingly, had no objections. "That's fine by me," she said, clearly relieved that she wouldn't need to be involved. Ryan's mother, however, seemed hesitant. "I always imagined living with Jenna someday, but I suppose I'll have to settle for this," she said wistfully. Jenna, unmarried at 30, was in a relationship and considering marriage. It was obvious that neither Jenna nor Ryan's mother wanted to burden Jenna's potential new family with caregiving responsibilities. Ryan, as usual, watched the conversation unfold without contributing. His mother, however, heaped gratitude onto him for the plan while I stayed silent. Being a daughter-in-law is such a thankless job, I thought bitterly. With a general plan in place, we began the process of selling the house. That's when the first major obstacle arose. The property was still under Ryan's father's name, and his declining health meant he couldn't legally sign off on the sale. The real estate agent advised us to appoint a legal guardian to handle the matter. When I explained this to Ryan, his response was as dismissive as ever. "Just let me know when the paperwork's ready. You're better at this stuff anyway," he said, making my blood boil. "This isn't just paperwork. You're his son, the eldest child. You should be handling this," I retorted. "I don't see the point. It's just an old house, and the money will go to bills anyway," he replied, indifferent. Realizing that arguing was futile, I decided to take on the legal guardian role myself. I made it clear to Ryan and Jenna that they were to stay out of it. Predictably, they agreed without hesitation, further underscoring their lack of concern. Navigating the labyrinth of paperwork and court filings was exhausting, but I pressed on, knowing how critical the sale was to Ryan's father's care. Just as I completed the process, tragedy struck. Ryan's father passed away unexpectedly. The news left everyone in shock. Ryan, as the eldest son, was nominally in charge of the funeral arrangements, but in reality, the bulk of the planning fell to me. Jenna remained unhelpful, and Ryan's mother, struggling with worsening memory, often forgot who some of the attendees were. "You're the rock holding this family together," one guest remarked to me during the funeral. Though meant as a compliment, it only deepened my resentment. After the funeral, the property needed to be transferred to the next of kin before it could be sold. Once again, Ryan and Jenna declined to take responsibility. "I don't want to deal with the hassle. Just sell it and let me know when you have the money," Ryan said. "Yeah, same. Just make sure I get my share," Jenna chimed in. Their selfishness was staggering. "That money will be used for your mother's care. It's not a windfall for you two to split," I snapped. "Oh, come on, Michelle. It's not like Dad was in the hospital that long. We deserve a little extra," Jenna argued. "Exactly. We're his kids, after all," Ryan added. as if that absolved them of responsibility. I clenched my fists, barely containing my frustration. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had done all the work while they casually discussed their share, determined to ensure the proceeds were used responsibly. I worked with the real estate agent to maximize the property's value by splitting it into 2 lots. The strategy paid off, and we sold the house for more than expected. The funds allowed us to purchase a modest home for Ryan and me and rent a nearby apartment for his mother. She was thrilled with her new place, though predictably, her gratitude was directed solely at Ryan. I bit my tongue and focused on the positives. After the move, life settled into a routine. I juggled my part-time job with caring for Ryan's mother, preparing her meals, managing her medications, and ensuring her comfort. Each day, the unspoken weight of responsibility pressed heavier on my shoulders. I prioritized Ryan's mother's well-being despite the toll it took on me. Yet, the more I gave, the more entitled Jenna and Ryan's mother became. Jenna often demanded money, using her pregnancy as an excuse to avoid work, while Ryan's mother complained endlessly about minor inconveniences. I poured my energy into ensuring her quality of life, buying special clothes, installing safety features in her apartment, and managing her daily needs. Yet, neither she nor her children ever showed a hint of gratitude. I tried to console myself by believing I was doing the right thing, but the constant disrespect made it harder to endure. Despite everything, I clung to the hope that Jenna's baby might bring some joy and possibly soften the family dynamics. Perhaps her child could bring Ryan's mother some happiness, maybe even slow the progression of her dementia. I dared to imagine that Jenna might finally grow up and take on some responsibility. A week after Jenna gave birth, I visited her home with a carefully chosen gift for the baby. My expectations were low, but I still believed showing kindness was the right thing to do. Jenna greeted me at the door with a sour expression. "Congratulations, Jenna. How are you feeling? Is the baby doing well?" I asked, trying to remain polite. "Yeah, whatever. What do you want?" she replied dismissively, standing in the doorway with one foot awkwardly propped in a sandal. "I brought a gift for the baby. May I come in?" I asked, holding on to civility. Jenna sighed loudly, her annoyance palpable. "What are you trying to do? Push your way in? Just leave the gift and go." Her rudeness struck a nerve. I thought about all the times I'd helped her and her family, all the sacrifices I'd made, and now she couldn't even invite me in for a minute to meet her child. "Come on, give it to me already," Jenna said, thrusting her hand out. I froze, the weight of years of insults and unspoken slights crashing over me. At that moment, it became painfully clear I was nothing more than a tool to them, someone to be used and discarded. For years, I justified my efforts by telling myself I was part of their family, but now I saw the truth. They had never seen me that way. "You know what, Jenna? Forget it. Keep living your comfortable little life, but don't expect me to be part of it anymore," I said, turning on my heel and walking away without handing over the gift. That moment was a turning point. My next step was clear. I would stop all financial support for Ryan's mother and Jenna immediately. No more playing the role of the self-sacrificing wife or sister-in-law. When payday arrived that Monday, not a single cent went to them. That evening, my phone buzzed with a call from Jenna. "What's going on?" "Mom said her rent payment didn't go through. You're still covering it, right?" she demanded. "No, I'm not. That's your responsibility, or hers. You're her actual family, remember?" I replied. "You can't just stop like that. How's she supposed to manage?" Jenna protested. "That's not my concern anymore. Figure it out," I said firmly before hanging up. Cutting them off financially was just the beginning. I informed the landlord of Ryan's mother's apartment that the lease would not be renewed. She would either have to move in with Jenna or find another solution. Predictably, Jenna wasn't happy. She bombarded me with calls and texts over the next week, demanding explanations. Each time, I gave her the same answer: I was done. Meanwhile, I began making arrangements to sell the house. Since the earlier transfer of ownership had placed it in my name, Ryan and his family had no legal claim to it. Ryan was next to call. What the hell, Michelle? Jenna said you're selling the house. You can't just kick us out. Actually, I can. It's my house. You're all free to make other arrangements, I said calmly. You're being ridiculous. What about Mom? Where's she supposed to go? That's for you and Jenna to figure out. I'm not involved anymore, I replied, cutting him off. Over the next month, the house sold, and Ryan, his mother, and Jenna were forced to move. Jenna's husband, overwhelmed by the chaos, eventually left her. Ryan struggled to find a new place, and his mother's health deteriorated further. Meanwhile, I moved into a cozy apartment across town. For the first time in years, I felt free. I transitioned my part-time job into a full-time position and started saving for my future. I didn't know what the next chapter of my life would bring, but I was ready to face it on my own terms.